Please join me in rising to salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Let's see, we have no appointments this evening. Public comment, number one. Rick, anything you wanted to bring up at all? No? Okay, committee liaison reports. Peter, I'll start with you.
The only thing I have is I did spend quite a bit of time talking with Joel on the phone.
Yeah.
About that shooting, complaint.
Little River Road, yeah.
And it was basically reaffirmed that it's going to be taken over by the code enforcement officer. With legality-wise, he has nothing. It's out of his
Jurisdiction. Yeah.
So we did discuss that. He said that he would not be here tonight, but if you want him to be, he'll come down.
Okay.
And I told him he's not needed.
Beautiful. Anything else?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, Chuck?
The only thing I've got is budget committee is Wednesday night.
Okay.
One of their first meetings to go along, and what they will, a part of what they'll be doing, gracious to send us all budget, but we do have a budget to actuals, which I got today, where everybody got today.
Yeah.
And I'd like to put it on the agenda for us to talk about next Monday. And
At the department head meeting?
Yeah, this is not relevant to them, but
Okay.
just having it on the agenda.
A review.
And the budget committee will be, I'm assuming, talking about it Wednesday night, or at least getting the first look at it, and if they got any questions, and Paul and I have talked about it a little bit, and there's some adjustments to be made with numbers in the wrong place and that kind of stuff. So, but it's a first glance at the first quarter, basically.
Okay, oh, good.
So if we can do that. Other than that, I have nothing.
Can I make one comment about budget?
Sure.
Adam wanted to make sure that you know that he's been asked to record all of them. He wanted to make sure that's okay, because he thought it was only for that first one.
Record all of what, Susan?
The budget committee.
Budget committee meetings.
And also that he won't be available to be here in person, but he can do it remotely. So
That's fine.
I'll let the budget committee know. He'll work with Stacy.
I was gonna say, send a note because.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it should be here, I agree.
The fact is if we're going to pay him for his time which is not, I don't think, in the budget committee's budget, because we weren't.
Right, I think that's what he's concerned about.
So we have to let Stacy know and see what anticipated hours are, et cetera, as to what we might have to move around there a little bit.
Okay.
We also have funds in the cable line item, correct? Can we allocate some of that for the budget committee?
Well, see how it goes.
See what we need, see what the projected cost will be, but
Come
the
September-
answer is yes, we do want them to televise the meetings. So we'll take one thing at a time on that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Laurie?
Were you gonna talk about the barn meeting? Or okay.
It's on my list,
Okay, so, last week,
Yep.
Last Wednesday. We had a meeting to talk about the Grace Daly barn renovation and the disposition of the L. And there were representatives from the HDC, from Heritage, from the museum, and then just some residents. So there was a lot of discussion, but the takeaway is that we are gonna detach it. And the question that Phil has to run down is if the contractor can renovate the barn with the L still right there. Because it can't, if it's moved, it will become kindling because it's not stable. So once that answer is got from the contractor, then we know we either have to meet again and come up with another plan, or he goes forward with the renovation, which is supposed to start the first week of May.
Okay.
And that's the nuts and bolts of the meeting right there.
Right, and in fact, the final note on the meeting is that if the answer that comes back from the contractor is that the L has to be moved away from the barn, that there will be another meeting to further discuss.
Yep, yep.
Very good, thank you. Glenn? Oh, it's more?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, for now,
Yeah, I know, yeah.
to be continued.
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about the shooting, we've talked about double poles. Oh, my list is getting shorter.
A beautiful thing.
It is. I had a conversation with the Recreation Director today, Paul Butler, who had recently had a conversation, I believe, with DPW Director, asking about installing security video surveillance at the various rec sites. It's a town facility like the beach area, the yet-to-be-built playing surface that the voters approved. There's a fire pit there, and the waterfront area. So, I mean, we've installed security at other town facilities, other town buildings, and the question is, does the town want to make an investment in video surveillance or security of some kind at the recreation sites? Is that sort of it, Phil? Yeah.
Does he feel like, is there something precipitating this need?
I think it's more preemptive. I don't think that there's any, at least I didn't get the sense that there was a particular activity or occurrence of something that triggered this. I think it's more proactive.
So it's proactive, like his budget? What are the particulars? I don't know.
Well, that's
He's just feeling it out to see if.
right. If the select board is of a mind to want to do this, then of course we'd have to have a discussion about how we pay for it, because this has not been budgeted.
Right.
I would guess that it's not a bad idea, but maybe get some pricing. Phil's got enough to do in the fall. Obviously, it could be an expensive project, depending on what we want to do, especially outdoor cameras, which have to be heated and all that, is to get some figures together and then, go via a warrant article, because the ARPA funds were pretty much holding back for the building. So my thought would be, let the people, on that one, people decide, unless by the end of the year we come up with another.
Or it could be a budgeted item for next year, perhaps.
Well, yeah, okay, either way.
Right.
Yeah, that would be.
Right, I'd be more I'd look forward to next year more than right now, because there really haven't been, to my knowledge, any
Right,
problems.
right.
But if there's increased use, which there would be with a pickleball court, fire pit would make me nervous in general anyways, but.
Well, that already exists, and
it's there, right.
And according to Paul, when I talked with him today, it has not seen a lot of use. So again, it's not something that is a problem at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Paula, can I ask you, on the security that's been done on the other buildings, was that taken care of by Block 5, or was that somebody else? Okay, it's a different, okay. Phil, do you?
I had a quick question for Phil in the audience. Do you know if that rec center has a locks door on that building? I know it has security in it, but does the locks work on that building? Do you know?
The door can be locked, but given the volume of people who go in there, it's not always locked. It is alarmed, but it is easier to give out people the passcode for the alarm than to have multiple keys made and keep opening the door.
Okay, thanks.
One thing on the camera system, so these are all hardwired in, and that's going to be the problem that presents out there, is you would have to physically run a line out to those areas that he's talking about to make those under surveillance, basically based on the systems we have installed here and at the DPW, and I believe the police station has the same setup as well. So it has some limitations in outdoor areas without a physical line running to it.
So that's even more reason to look to that maybe for a budgeted or warrant article for next year.
Yeah, my assumption, and I haven't talked to Reinhold about it, I figured he should bring it up to the board first, but it's going to be significantly more expensive because so much more line would have to be run for that to be properly installed.
Probably more than the pickleball court.
We'll see.
Just saying. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, so, given that,
Not so much.
we need to do some work.
Some
So,
homework, yes.
so the first thing would be to at least start gathering some estimates. Maybe from the vendor who has done the other work here in town, and go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
So if I get back to Paul and put that task on him, I'm assuming that he would reach out probably to Phil and to Paula for contacts and maybe coordinate that discussion with the security firm? Okay,
Sounds good.
all right.
Anything else?
Yes,
Okay, good.
just,
Proud of you with the list. Good for you.
well, you know, I've tried now.
You do great.
I tried. We voted last meeting to change the name of the solar committee to the energy committee, so that that committee could then have broader scope and look into other things like perhaps community power. So with that vote, I reached out to all the committee members and let them know that the name has changed, and we'd be reaching out to them through the chairman, Mr. Russman, with possible future meeting dates. So nothing is set yet, but at least the committee now knows that the name has changed and that their scope is going to be broader. And I also checked with the town clerk to make sure that we didn't need to redo the appointments because they were specifically to the solar committee. And she looked into it and got back to me and said that there was no need to make that change, that the existing appointments could satisfy. The name change doesn't.
It's a related area anyway, so
Right.
it should, it's good, good. Thanks for filling that in.
Right, so there's that. Lori updated you on the barn. And the only other thing on my list is that I've had an initial conversation with Phil regarding the municipal water utility.
Okay.
So he and I kind of exchanged our ideas of what we knew about the history, and actually Phil had more history than I did, and provided some copies of documents with, actually with John Radigan, as it turns out, who was the attorney Radigan, who helped us with that. And that correspondence goes back to 2002. So this has been going for a while, but it was actually 2011 that the voters approved the warrant article to allow us to do this.
That also went 3 rounds for approval.
Yes,
It did not, a lot of people did not understand what it meant.
right,
Sounded like we were building water trenches underneath the town.
right,
So,
right. So, I mean, the main objective with having the water utility is ultimately it would give us the authority to run pipes and so forth if we needed to, if there were a part of town that all of a sudden, you know, we decided or it was determined that they needed potable water and we couldn't get it to them any other way. At least the utility would give us the mechanism to do that. But the bigger piece of it right now is that it gives us control of the underground water resource that is very abundant here in our community. And it provides us a little bit of protection if a company came into town, wanted to drill a well and pipe the water out of town. By us having the water utility, they can't just do that without us having a say in it and without us being able to assess fees.
and benefit from it.
Correct. So there are very few things here in town that give us the opportunity to generate revenue. If we're very careful, and we've been careful to protect the resource, and it's a good resource, and if we use it wisely, we can use it as not only as a supply of potable water for our own community, but as a possible revenue generator for the town.
Future revenue stream, yeah.
So that's kind of the background of it. Phil and I left the discussion with a task for me to ask this board if you would allow me to make initial contact, and again, with the attorney, to discuss possible next steps on how we structure this and what do we need here in town to set up our ducks in a row, if you will. And that would be Attorney Radigan again. He's the one who has done all the background work.
Gentlemen, ladies?
I'm more than happy for you to take that on if you. I think it's needed, so
Well, how about if I make a motion?
Sure. I like that idea.
And then we get it on the table and discuss it.
Sure.
I'll make a motion, well, this is odd.
Exploratory committee. Is that?
Well, no, actually, the motion is really just to authorize me to contact Attorney Radigan to potentially engage him in helping us with this water utility structuring going forward.
Okay.
Are you making the motion?
I just
Or are you
did.
calling for it? Okay,
No,
second.
I-
Second.
It seems odd because I
Yeah,
was
it is a
doing it
little
for
bit.
me, but
All right. Discussion from my colleagues.
And Glenn's right about the history of it, as I recall. I think it was back when I was on earlier, when there was a company in Newton that was, and we didn't know about it at the time, was going to put a well in, but they can, which I didn't understand.
Company in Hampstead did.
They can drill sideways. They can come from Newton into Kingston's water and take it, and we have no control over it. And as Glenn says, now with that law being passed, we have the control to keep that there. And I don't have a problem with that, but just, I mean, it seems like it could be a massive project, and I'd want to, financing-wise, if it came, to, not your investigation, but I mean, down the road, if it was something that.
It will be massive.
oh, well, it could be, although setting up the mechanism to give us the tools that we need to make it work for us isn't necessarily a huge project. I mean, if and when we come to making a decision about running pipes, well, that's a whole other story.
Right, exactly.
And then we're talking about bonding and all kinds of stuff, but that's not what this initial step is.
And we may have more support from the federal government with grants down the road, but if we don't have some of the preliminary work to understand the scope and magnitude of the project, then we gotta start somewhere, so
Yep.
now's as good a time as
Exactly.
any. I think it's a great idea. Further discussion or comments? Sure.
Part of your preliminary investigation into this, maybe we could make some inquiries, because I'm not familiar with that whole water supply system at all, but I'd be curious on how fast that changes and updates as far as rules and laws and regulations. Does it change often? And are we gonna invest all this information into a preliminary setup, and then when we get ready to go forward with the project, we're gonna have to do it all over again? Because things do change. I'd be curious to ask them, as a utility, laws governing this utility and how often they do change.
Well, I know that the RSA that governs this has been in place for a while, and that doesn't change very much. And all we're doing in this first step is just making sure that we have whatever legal structure in place, so that if and when we do have a project to do, we're set up to move forward with it.
I think when you talk about a plan, you're saying, okay, we need to have a commission, we need to have bylaws, we need to have identified areas of where the water would be drawn from, maybe, because
Possibly.
you'd have to have engineering studies for that. So I think that's what you're really talking about, the planning stages before we actually launch a utility. Okay, does that make sense?
There's going along with this is also the piece of land down off of New Boston Road.
Yes.
That the town has identified as a potential well source, and that the voters have approved money to purchase it. But we don't yet have the landowners go ahead to consummate the purchase.
Right.
And that's something that Director Coombs is working on. Right, Phil? Yes. So that kind of goes along with this.
Yes, I agree.
It's all part of
Thank you.
this.
Thank you. That's a yeoman's job project. And I know that our neighbors in Hampstead have already started drawing water out, so that's back in the '01, I remember. Anyways, my own liaison report really is a planning board.
Did we vote on that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Couple of things that came up at the planning board. One was Saddle Up, and I had asked Susan to look up what we had decided last summer. Last summer, they had asked for, I believe, 10 or 12 dates for outdoor music. We approved either 5 or 6, half of them, because we had some dates, and said he needed to go to the planning board for an update to the site plan in order to go forward. Well, the planning board did receive a letter from, I don't know if it was Bobby or somebody else, that thinking that they could just send the letter and make a notation on the planning board site plan and be done, but that's not the expectation. And I wasn't sure whether or not there had been some problems last summer with events that had occurred that weren't permitted, but I believe that was, I think a couple of times it did happen because of weather. See, that was the kind of the glitch, if you will. He was concerned about giving specific dates because the dates would be subject to change should the weather preclude outdoor music. But I think he still has to go through the planning board. Am I correct on that?
We told him last year that that would be the last
Time.
year, and you already asked the draft house to go to the planning board before they could continue, so
Yeah.
I think
So we
it was
wanted to be consistent
place
on
for
that as
both.
well. Okay, and in your packets, and another issue, in your package, you had a letter from a Hampstead resident who abuts the property down on Mill Road, I believe, is where there's a telephone tower going in, and we've had a series of hearings at the planning board. The tower location has been moved away from the boundaries, so the utility, or the vendor, I should say, has made effort with the landowner to move it accordingly. There were a number of people here from Hampstead, again, they're not happy with it, but I don't see it otherwise not going forward. I think this probably will go through.
Right, and that letter that's in our packet has no name associated with it. And so I don't know if when the planning board saw it, if it had a person's name to attach to it, but be that as it may, I mean, the letter is provided to us, but I mean, that's really a site plan review issue, and that's the purview of the planning board, not this board.
Yeah, the planning board had not received this last Tuesday.
Oh, they hadn't?
No,
Okay.
this came in to us.
Came in after that.
Yeah,
and
it
I
came in after that.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter, because it's not signed. There was a gentleman that was really upset the other night and literally slammed the door and stormed out. Because he didn't want it at the planning board meeting, yeah. But it was a Hampstead,
This is the cell tower over in East Hampstead.
yes.
A little confusing because it says East Kingston.
Yeah, he refers to us as East Kingston, but they live in East Hampstead on the Kingston border.
Yeah, so this letter refers to East Kingston.
Yeah. And that was it for me, that's ongoing there.
Just, Ellie, just to go back to your comment about Saddle Up.
Yeah.
I think there's an email from Glenn Greenwood in our packet where he communicated back to Saddle Up.
Yes.
Informing them that an amended site plan would be
Is required, correct.
Yes,
Thank you. I did have that. Okay, let's move on to old business, or unfinished business, actually. The power poles that we had advice from legal counsel in non-public, and the board has voted to move that over to the attorneys to pursue. We also had an update from Mr. Bakey about maybe pursuing something with the Public Utilities Commission in conjunction with other communities that face similar problems with the double poles.
Madam Chair?
Carmen, yeah.
May I just ask a question, because I didn't write a note to myself.
Okay.
On the double polls issue, we did decide to engage legal counsel on that. Was that an action item for me? Or was Susan going to do that?
Susan was gonna do that.
Yeah.
Well,
We just need to decide, and I couldn't remember, so.
Well,
On the
first of all, you need to sign the
we have it in the-
retainer for him, and then when I send that,
Right.
I'll send that in to
yeah,
him.
that's in the orange folder, we'll do
Oh,
that
okay.
shortly.
Okay.
But I would say Susan would initiate it because we've had the letter with him before.
Yep.
A couple of years back, so that needs to be reissued and updated, and then the follow-up with the other Utilities Commission.
Okay.
So for now, we'll leave it with Susan.
Yep. Good,
But you
good.
probably will cross-reference with him on the other one anyways.
Yep.
Okay, Little River Road, the chief, Joel Johnson, has reviewed the issues with the shooting, gun shooting down there. It really is an ordinance issue with decibel level, and our building inspector for code enforcement officer is gonna follow up with that, and try to work out an amicable, resolution to the concern. Okay. Approve evaluation forms, Paula, what evaluation forms are we approving? I thought they were too. The only ones we have is the ones we picked out last week that we will use with the department heads after we get any feedback from any employees.
Yeah, I sent out to all the department heads last Tuesday the employee evaluation of the supervisor. And then, once I get those back, the deadline was, I think this Friday. I don't have it in front of me.
It was the supervisor form that you were going to
Yeah, that's-
revamp to bring.
Which
this
we
one
did,
here.
yep, so we revamped the supervisor form, and that's the one that will go out once I get these,
Any comments from any employees?
yep, and
Whatever they
then
may
I'll
be.
send them, I'll give it to you guys all with a packet, with the prior year evaluation and the employee evaluations of the supervisor, and then the blank
Okay,
supervisor,
Okay,
and instructions.
So that form is already set? Okay, because I had it on my, that's why it was on the agenda, because I understood you were going to approve the form tonight. You had the one form that went out already,
Yeah, no,
and the
last
other
week,
form was going to,
no,
okay,
Last
well,
week
if you're
we
set,
decided.
I'm fine. It's just, that's why it was on there.
couple of them in here, so, yeah, okay.
But yes, we approved it last week.
All right, thank you, Paul. Electrical service on the plains, how to proceed, Phil and Tom. Electrical panel,
Phil's ready to
Oh.
talk about that.
we do like to keep you out of trouble, don't we?
I had a meeting on site with our electrical inspector regarding this, I believe it was the end of October of last year. The priority had shifted from the Board of Selectmen after that meeting, though, because it was supposed to be paid with ARPA funding to do these upgrades on the planes. And then the shift was to the front stairs and the HVAC for the town hall to have that be what we were spending the remainder of the ARPA money on. The other kink in this whole thing was at the end of last, well, before Kingston Days last year, the electrical inspector was awaiting guidance from the Kingston Days Committee as to what they wanted for basically service.
Okay,
And he did not receive that. That's why we were kind of in a last-minute panic there at the end, right before Kingston Days, because nothing had been really done to upgrade anything. So with no Kingston Days Committee being in existence, we don't really have anyone we can consult as to the final disposition of what things would look like out there.
where the panel should go and what they needed.
Correct.
Did he give us any information at the time?
So at the time, him and I, we walked through the whole thing, and the intention is to bury everything underground. Get rid of all the aerials and just put services wherever we want them in the main area, do a couple crossroad trenches. So basically where the carnival is and where the car show took place, there would be an electrical service over there, but nothing too extensive. But again, we had a pretty massive shift in everything, where everything was situated versus prior years. So we were trying to get the interested stakeholders to be involved versus me and Tom just deciding where everything goes.
So
That makes
a
sense.
question, Paul, I might be able to answer it. There's Kingston Day funds, the regular Kingston Day funds, and there's also Kingston Day funds for the 250th or whatever the next one is.
Yeah, for the anniversary fund,
Is any of that money, because it would be going for Kingston Days and that, is any of that money usable, do you think?
The
Let's say the 350th.
350th, whatever it's called right now, I don't know what it's called. No, because that's set for just that. And I would, it's hard because other people use the planes. I wouldn't take it from the Kingston Days Fund.
Well, no, the majority of the electricity is required because of the volume of the vendors, is,
But then this year, there's gonna be a 3-day event from the fire department, so, Kingston Days and the select board, we approved spending funds out of the Kingston Days for like signs, new equipment like that, up to 2,000, I think, but other than that, it wasn't, the electrical, I think, it was
Yeah,
put on the CIP.
Electrical would not go under one of those fund accounts.
I see that as a town
That's a town
expenditure,
expense.
because we charge fees for those that are not resident for the use of the planes, and we, of course, we invest in an electrical panel throughout the planes, you're gonna look at higher fee
Yeah,
structure
it's definitely a town
to
expense.
reimburse the town for that.
the only foreseeable problem is that, you know, one of these days, Tom's gonna go look at it and say,
You can't use
you
it.
can't use it. I mean,
Oh, it's already there. I mean, that's a
I
bunch of junk
understand,
they
yeah.
pulled from the fairgrounds. I was kind of like flipping stuff on like that, trying to lean away, but,
Ballpark.
I mean, everything needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
That being said, we can utilize the highway department to trench everything, lay the conduit in.
Yeah.
And even pull wires. So really, your major cost in this is going to be materials.
Any idea how much?
I have no idea what we're doing, so,
You know, we really should look into it, because if we don't have, even if we didn't do the actual work this year and had to wait one more because of the cost, I think I almost hate to wait another year. Because you're gonna have, the fire department's got the 3-day event, the museum is probably gonna have Heritage Days again. We've got something else.
We'll
in the
have
fall.
Kingston Days next year.
I think that panel you were talking about, Chris and I were over there last year in the rain, trying to flip those breakers on and off. And I guess I'm 100% agreeing with you, put it all on the ground, make it look beautiful, put a couple stands here and there, but I think that's gonna take a little time and money. But I'd just be curious on those couple panels we have, just to make those safe.
Is that an option?
Is that a bad thing?
Tom
that
doesn't
good?
feel,
No.
the way it's set up and the way it was installed, it just,
What are we gonna do with the fire department thing that's coming around the corner?
they're planning, they've told all their vendors to bring generators.
Okay,
Okay, so it's not an imminent,
that's my question, right?
Yeah, and again, I think we can do a lot of the groundwork if we can just, if you guys can get the stakeholders who, because we have new people coming in, you know, the fire is now, they're gonna be key players in this, the museum wasn't previously doing that, so it's not just Kingston Days, but whomever needs to be there to make those decisions, if someone can get them together and we can kind of get a consensus on that, we can make it happen. It's not something I'm gonna decide on my own.
no, I understand, I appreciate that, because it's a lot of work to do. Peter, you wanna run with that? I mean, we don't have Kingston Days this year, but,
Yeah, I'd have to get with you to find out what you're talking about as far as where you're thinking the trenches would be, because, you know, I make water, I don't make electricity.
Yep.
And I'm thinking you're gonna drive that trenching machine right down the plains, and it's gonna take out all the roots of those trees. So I'm just kinda curious, you wanna put some just on the other side by Rick's, and just trying to get a preliminary what you're looking to do,
Yep.
and then
then you need to contact Stacy and maybe some of the former members, or even Laurie here.
yeah, I just have to get some on the types of wire and.
Oh, for the need.
I'd have to have
No, I
somebody.
mean, I think the need is gonna be universal, regardless, I mean, I think it's like, we need power in the bandstand, and we need the big space to have power, and we need the other ones, and we need lights.
It's
I mean,
correct, it's more the layout of the
Yeah,
infrastructure.
that's the big thing, right? That's
Yeah.
what I was getting at,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
it's not necessarily where it's going, but you go a certain distance underground, then it requires transformers. You can't push power from here to there, then over there, and anywhere else without being pushed. So then you're gonna have pad transformers, and that's when you're gonna get into some serious money.
And do we want power all the way down to the park?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
those questions, right?
No, yeah, that's
That's
what I'm thinking.
correct.
That's,
So-
I'm thinking the
The 4 sections.
primary
Like
user.
probably the bandstand, and then clearly the big part, and then maybe the one next to it, because that's used a lot too.
Correct.
But, I don't know,
So
right?
you're just gonna find out how far this stuff can go
Yep.
on the ground and what we're gonna need for materials.
But then it's also
But the other
funding.
thing is whether we want lights, there was talk about speakers.
Yep.
So just kind of the things like that, we need to know just so we can put that infrastructure in the ground. Even if we don't do it right away, we're only digging a trench once.
Correct.
And the goal of doing it now would be, if we have to do any road crossings, we do it before, I mean, because within 3 or
Plan
4
on it
years,
now.
we'll be paving
You'll know now,
around the
even if it's
plains.
not till next year, you
Yep.
get the diagram set of what's gonna happen when. Okay.
And then funding, it is, I know we had a preliminary conversation last week where, you know, it was, initially we had talked about ARPA funds for that, because I don't think the cost is gonna be huge if we're doing most of the labor, if we're talking materials. Clearly, I'm not an electrician, I have no idea how much conduit is, and it's a lot that we're gonna need, but it's a funding thing, right? And do we, because, you know, our plan has shifted a lot, right? And we're taking X, Y, and Z out of ARPA, and then the town hall is gonna be funded somehow.
Well, ARPA still has the front steps.
Right.
And hopefully, the majority, at least half the town hall. Because we're not, my guess is we're not, number one, the town hall's not gonna be done in 1 year.
No.
Probably be phased in, gonna have to get approval from the voters. So the other steps, but the ARPA funds have to be used this year and next. If we can get the again, you gotta do the steps, get that piece squared, then you have the town hall, see how much we have available.
So the town hall, the plan, not renovations, like the plan, we said we're getting a plan, an architecture plan, that's gonna be thousands of dollars.
Right.
So,
That's gonna be at least 50,000.
right, so the steps, the plan, and then there's not gonna be a whole lot left.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
So do we use what the small amount is left to buy the conduit, and then Public Works works on it over the next couple of years?
So who we thinking,
Maybe,
fire
maybe that's
department,
some prices.
Kingston Days
Yeah.
Historical, and who else? What other committee to talk to?
Museum.
Museum?
Yeah,
That
Well,
is
the
the
museum
historical,
committee-
yeah, is that the historical committee that
That's
you're?
what I was thinking, the historical committee.
They
Whoever
don't do
you,
it,
who
the
else?
museum does it.
Who else are the big users of the planes?
the cross-country team, or
Yeah,
or
the
at least the
school.
school.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Oh, but we should be charging the schools.
I'm just thinking if they have a power need that's not currently being addressed,
Listen,
We
no
may
more
wa-
free rides. I'm done.
That's a whole different, it's more who uses it, so
Right,
yeah.
who uses
what I'm
it?
saying, that's what I'm
If they would
asking.
need to make announcements or whatever.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
So,
the school, I would say, yeah.
okay.
Announcements is important.
But I think that's more just having the electricity there, not, and they bring their own, right?
Correct. If you have if you have a solid infrastructure for electrical
I'm asking, I just don't. I'm
It'll work
asking.
for almost
I mean, I know
anything.
that they typically set up speakers, and I know the fire department has some standalone portable speakers.
Yeah.
So again, before I get too far down the rabbit hole, what kind of budget are we looking at here? But I think the key thing is getting the stakeholders together and figuring out what they want, and we can walk backwards from there.
We also have the infrastructure money. We don't talk about that, but there
Right.
is money there and we can get.
And that we
so-
can use,
Or a
right.
percentage of it.
Right, we can use
As
the
we can
interest, some of the interest on that infrastructure money.
Yeah.
Yep. So we do have availability through that, assuming it's not $100,000.
Yeah, I can't imagine there is.
I
If
can.
we hired somebody to pull all the cable and trench, it would be, but just for the,
He's gonna still give us a
Plans
bill.
for
Don't you worry.
I only do that to the trustees.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other questions for Phil on this, on the electrical panel?
So, Peter, this is your, oh, okay. Okay,
Get a diagram of the planes, we'll sketch it out, and then we'll get everybody's input on what they're thinking, so we,
Okay.
we're on the same sheet of music.
you're gonna work with the folks and?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you. Moving right along, cow patty deed sales, Tammy has agreed to work to help them out downstairs in the clerk's office to sell the cow patty deeds, as we have in the past. Okay, this is a new one. Add action item at the end of an item discussed in the minutes. I don't want to get too cumbersome in the minutes, but would you want to explain to us what you want to do?
so I think it kind of stems from the misunderstanding that we talked about earlier, right? Where we have a lot of discussions, and then some things that are brought before the board, there's no action, it's just for conversation.
Yeah,
Some things are, it's actionable, and we talk about it, but we don't necessarily walk away with who's gonna do it. And then some things that are, do we need to take a vote on? I mean, I just think it gets a little confusing sometimes, and people walk away with different understandings of what we discussed. And all I'm suggesting is that we just tighten it up a little bit. When we have a discussion, okay, are we doing anything with this? Nope. Okay. Just like Glenn did with, okay, yep, Peter, you got it. So you have the action item so that we all know Peter's got it. So no one else has to do anything with it. And just to capture that,
well, that's gonna be in the minute, I don't know if, well,
I
But
can
it's
make
not
it more
usually.
clear in the minutes, like this was pretty good, so I can just write in the
yeah,
minutes
I think.
what's gonna happen
Let's
next.
make an effort to be concise if we have to assign something. I think that's the key. If
If
someone's-
anybody has any question, just ask.
Right, assign it.
Right, and it can be as simple in the minutes as just bolding and underlining that action, whatever it is.
I mean, Susan can figure out whatever it's gonna work for her. She's the one
Yeah.
that types it up.
Right, I just don't want it.
You're right, it'll be captured in the minutes, but at least this way, at quick glance, you can just say, there's an action.
And I will make every effort to make sure we know who's responsible to follow up on it.
Right, and that's the thing, because I think sometimes that is missed. We assume a lot, right? Just because, you know, we have our thing and we all go for it, but sometimes, you know, what happens when we make the wrong assumptions, right? So we don't want to
I
do
got it.
so.
Okay,
Oh, I had one thing.
yeah, what else?
So last week, we were gonna assign POCs for these initiatives, and it somehow didn't make it on the agenda.
I thought they were gonna get retyped,
Right,
Again?
oh, you're right, they were supposed to get retyped.
so we know.
What
if we
they are.
Change somebody and move them around.
We
then-
did, there was a lot of, this is a perfect example of why things need to be recapped.
You want to bring it forth next week with a new list, I
You
can,
wanted this redone, is that what you're saying?
With all the changes, we made 3 or 4 changes and added stuff.
Yep,
That's what I thought was gonna happen,
There-
and then we would do.
right, you're absolutely right, that they were gonna be retyped, and then this week we were gonna assign who's working the initiative.
Okay, I didn't get the retype part because I thought we were all set with the ones we had
Well,
here.
we added,
What did we add?
yeah, I don't know, Glenn added
All right,
something.
I'll take this on and I'll look at the minutes again and see what we might have missed.
I've
from
got
this
them
list.
listed in the minutes where I think they are,
Right, because I
still
think
have
that,
that.
I don't know
Yeah,
that
I have
that's
that.
accurate. I'd have to
So,
look
well,
at my
you'll-
notes from
you'll
last
get it
week.
ahead and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we'll send out a new
Yeah.
list and you take a look at it
Yeah.
then, we can reaffirm and go from there. Let's
Right.
do this time, it's all we can do, all that next week. Okay, correspondence is, public comment number 2. Any public comments? So we have correspondence, there's a solar application exemption, cemetery deed, facilities use request for yoga on the plan, and facilities maintenance request policies.
So for the one on the yoga, are we charging them? We had this conversation last year.
We talked about the yoga before, yeah, last year, correct.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And I think we had said like $50 for the whole time.
We assigned something, and with the understanding it was just a stopgap until we
Yeah,
changed the
we-
fees, which we haven't done.
Which we haven't done, but we weren't going to charge them every single time.
Right. I think this is just a one-time.
Is it a one-time or is it a continued use?
It just, between the hours of 6 and 7 p.m. on 6/24. Looks like it's just a one-time deal. Because there's no other dates on this.
No, it was just the once that I understand.
And are we charging them?
No, there is no fee attached on this here.
Did we last time?
I don't know that they ever, no.
They never came in. We were going to charge them, and then they never did it.
There's no
So-
services required there, and the police, fire, and road agent have all signed off.
The problem was the fee for using the planes is, I think it's like $100, so,
Well, no, they're a profit, so I think it was more expensive than that.
right.
And and they wanted to use it like every week for like all summer or something like that. But then the conversation was, but there's other athletic events that occur that we don't request.
Well, they just show up.
They just show up, so, like, what's the difference?
So I think it was in the fall, we had jujitsu come and use the planes, and we charged them $50.
For one time?
Yep.
No, it's Project Soul Yoga from Salem, New Hampshire.
I think it was right after the yoga person came in, so we charged similar
I
to
think it was
them.
50. I
Yeah.
can't remember, it was 50 or 100, but it was,
I
We
think
did
if
charge
it's not
them.
a town resident, there should be a fee.
Say what?
If it's not a town resident. Because this is a company coming from another community, and they're not doing it in their community.
Well, even if it was a town resident, if they were running a private business and wanted to use the planes, I think they still should be charged at least something, even if it's nominal. I would think that in the case you just mentioned, Paula, whatever we did for that organization would seem,
And that was a one-time
Appropriate.
class, right? Yeah. And $50 it is. Do we have this on our fee structure?
No, there's not a fee for $50. There's not.
It would be more.
It would be more,
And
but I
I-
think we just said that.
I
just
can
to-
look tomorrow to see how much exactly, I can't remember if it was 50 or 100 off the top of my head, but
50 sounds right, because I know it was less than normal.
No,
because-
the fee schedule says 100, but we had agreed 50 last year for the yoga that never happened, and that's what we charged
I
them.
believe it is.
Right.
So if that's what we agreed to last year, you want me to,
Do the same thing and let
Assess
them know
that.
that. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's the one night, so we should just wait till next week to sign it. It's basically, thank you, Paula.
so do you want a motion then, Ellie? Or are you good with where we are?
Well,
Well, we should at least establish,
we can approve it pending a payment of the $50 fee. We can do that. Approve it pending.
yeah, I'll make a motion that we grant the request for use of the planes by, what's,
The date is June 21st,
for June 21st. Are there hours on there?
6 to 7 p.m.
6 to 7 p.m. By Project
Project Soul Yoga.
Project
S-O-U-L.
Soul Yoga. So my motion is to grant the request and to assess a fee of $50 for this application.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve it and assess it $50 fee. All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
I was just confirming the flight amount.
Is it a
Oh,
false
yeah, that'd be a
yeah, I
problem.
did check.
I'll go if Chuck goes.
Okay, we have a cemetery deed purchase here. Sign. And we have, property tax credit exemption, I guess that's all the checks out.
Yes.
This is the application for facility used by the fire department. And a road agent and fire chief have not signed off on it.
I sent it out electronically, so I got 2 pages. Graham and then Joel, and then I talked to Phil in person today.
So we want a formal approval of,
It's the library.
no, it's a library, excuse me. That's his job to do.
That's the kickoff to the summer reading.
Okay, oh, I know what this is for. The library wants to have one of their summer reading programs on the planes. They're gonna release oh my God, they're gonna have
Frisbee dogs.
chasing frisbees as part of the summer reading program. It looks adorable. 12:30 to 3:30, and it may be moved a little bit later in the afternoon. It should be, if they want to try something new, I think it looks pretty fantastic if you want to
Charge
do
them
it.
$50?
No, we're not gonna charge them $50. Yeah, so do I have a motion to approve it pending the police chief signing it?
So moved.
In a second?
What was that?
Second.
Okay. What's that? Yeah. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
By the way, did they pick a rain date?
They have not. That's a good
Well,
question.
that's interesting, because if it's a nasty day.
It's called the Flying Dogs Frisbee Dog Show.
Oh,
Flying Dogs.
well, maybe it's rain or shine.
Summer reading kickoff.
Anyway, whatever.
That'd be fun.
All right. Yeah, I think so too. Let's see, notice of intent to excavate on Smallpox Road. This all set to go here?
Yep,
There's a check attached.
that goes to the state, so that's why it's still there.
Okay. And this is the letter of engagement with Donahue Tucker Chandela. Do I need another motion to authorize signature?
Well, just for purposes of official business, I suppose, I'll make a motion that we authorize the chair to sign the engagement letter with DTC lawyers for purposes of counsel on the double poll issue here in town.
Okay,
Second?
discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. And then the last thing is the facilities maintenance and service request form.
Right, we had talked about that, and then I added clarifying language that you have to go into it to check, it doesn't push any messages out, right? So if you do a submittal for facilities maintenance. So it was just adding the clarifying language that we had talked about, so people are aware.
Okay, have you all read it? Do you
Well,
want to read it?
we had it 2 weeks ago, and then, yeah, and that's when we talked about it, so this was just me adding that clarifying language that we'd all talked about to sign.
Okay, do I have a motion that you're ready to move on it? Someone please move.
Oh, so moved.
In a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I didn't. No. Ayes have it. Okay, it's down to write like Chris Bash now. All right, the manifest is going around, that's the purple one. Did you pass that on to Peter? We already signed. Okay, let's go down this way then. Motion for the approval of the minutes from April 15th. Yeah.
So moved.
Hey, Bill, before you leave, he said a quick question. Can we ask that when you guys,
Okay, yeah.
just a quick question?
The front stairs, have you talked to anybody about cement people or anything to give you an idea or suggestions? Or you're waiting to get them, I was a little confused on the next step on that, the front stairs.
I guess I am too, because I was waiting to hear back from the architect.
So the architect, does that mean that, is the architect gonna redesign the stairs? Because
Yes.
they're gonna redesign the
Isn't it
stairs.
engineering on the
Well,
stairs?
it's really the reconstruction of the stairs that are there, right, Phil?
Well, that's what, we talked about the difference between an architect and an engineer. So the engineer would really tell you how to build the stairs, an architect's gonna draw them for you. So that's my question.
So basically, the architect will be quarterbacking all of the different things for the town hall as requested. So they will be contracting a mechanical engineer to do the HVAC draw-up, an electrician to do the electrical needs, and then an engineer, I'm assuming civil, to assess the front stairs, do the necessary borings and things like that to make sure that we're doing it properly.
Okay.
But when we had the meeting here a week and a half ago, that was how we ended it, and we were just out there, you know, he was getting eyes on it, but he still has to get us an updated proposal on his original number.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Yep.
He was told to do that. He was told to do that separately. We're not waiting to the whole town hall and all.
No, we wanna get that separate.
He's under the, he knows that he's gotta move it along.
That gentleman from town that was here the other night inquired about that, if he offered his direction on cement work. And he actually came up with some pretty good ideas about pulling that stuff off of there, to reuse that material and then deal with what's underneath of it. So he inquired with that.
Yeah, I am following the board's direction to go with that. And just an update on the South Fire Station. If anyone's aware of someone who's a good block mason, I've talked to 3 and they want no part of it. So if anyone has any connections in there.
For which work, Phil?
South Station.
You wanted
It was recently renovated.
Yes.
Well, this is where we're gonna need to put something out on social media real quick, on our website, on your Facebook page, the town Facebook. We need to get that word out there, see who's out there that can do it for us, or we're willing to do it, put it that way.
So because it's an insurance job, we don't need to go out to bid, but I would recommend that I can draft some formal bid documents and we can send out on, there's one called Bid Ocean and things like that, that put municipal jobs out there to the public. Again, it's kind of a lost art, and this one's gonna be difficult, so they're not very interested. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up in this meeting. If anyone's aware of someone or just, you know, someone you might be able to talk to, please let me know.